Hello YouTube. This is BalorMage again with one of our League Start build guides. This is a hit version of Explosive Arrow, a self-cast hit version. So you get to play how I think bow builds are actually meant to be played, with Mirage Archer and you actually running around and firing at things, which is one of the biggest reasons I never played the Ignite version. Ignite was just better, just slightly better all the time. This league, however, Ignite is getting a nerf, and the hit version that isn't Ignite is getting a buff. So we did a bunch of testing on a nice fast raider to see if we could still play Explosive Arrow, but as a self-attack hit version, and we came up with this. It has been tested. It has killed our endgame bosses in what would be my day 2 gear, which I assume takes an average player more around a week to get. I will have all that in the path of building. We've got some super realistic gear, some super realistic tree. We don't even have cluster jewels in this setup. We're ending up with about, and we had to do our own math to work this out, because path of building does not understand how Explosive Arrow works at all. We have about 5 million DPS in our single target setup and about 2 in our clear setup, which is fine. That is in a quill rain, and just a 6-link quill rain. There's no gear, there's no fancy quivers, there's no fancy damage rolls. All of our gear is just stuff off the floor mostly. And as you can see in the background, the clear is also pretty good. So it's got a reasonable amount of boss damage that we can actually kill all of our bosses with. This will not be an uber bosser. This will not be for your uber bosses. Unfortunately, this build doesn't tick S tier for anything. It's quite good clear and quite decent at bossing, and it's got quite good defenses, but it isn't the best at anything. This is what I'm going to call more of an all-rounder. You will be able to do everything at a decent pace. So for someone who's looking for low entry cost, works while you're leveling, you don't have to change builds, and just functioning at all things. So it can do all of your bosses and it can do all of your mapping all in one build. It is like low A tier, high B tier at everything. Capable of doing everything and incredibly cheap. So we're going to move into path of building, and I will show you some things that are pretty important, because Explosive Arrow is not calculated properly in path of building. So we have had to pull some shenanigans in path of building to lower its damage, because path of building thinks we're doing like 60 million DPS, which we are absolutely not. It's a lot closer to 5.5 than 60. So we've had to pull some shenanigans. So let's move into path of building. So here is our path of building. We've got a whole bunch of leveling trees. I will just show people real quick. I didn't split them up per act or anything. I just made a whole bunch of leveling trees that are just labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just let you figure out where you should be putting all of your points. We also have the level 80, which is the last non-crit version of the tree. And then the level 90 version, which is where you change to crit, and it nearly doubles your damage. Unfortunately, crit does require quite a lot of points, and that's gonna just have to be later. We do have a small stat deficit on both int and strength, and I have taken both of these nodes on the tree for the build guide. But you may notice that all of our gear is for the most part just devout of rolls. I actually don't have anything but life on most of my gear. I've got an average triple damage jewel. Those will only be about 5C, and I just have life on my gear, and that's it. So the only piece that I didn't completely strip is the quiver. I left that on because I just want to show that having projectile speed and attack speed is pretty important, and we really want to try and get as much of both of those as we can. We do have a quill rain on, And we do have a Hiram's Ire chest. So we don't know how expensive those are going to be, but we'll see. What I don't have is an updated path of building. So we've had to do a little bit of shenanigans in our config here. For start with, I've just hit plus 200 all resistances just to res cap me so that I didn't have to bother building all of the gear for everyone. With specific reses and stuff, you could see all of the rare gear was empty. We're wearing tons of rare gear. Very easy to resistance cap, not a problem. I've also had to put 91% less damage in the custom modifier here. So what was actually happening, if I comment that out, I just get rid of it, it thinks we're doing 60 million DPS, which we are just not. So what's actually happening in Path of Building is it thinks that every single arrow that hit is doing a 20 arrow explosion. And so we had to do some back of the hand math to work out kind of what we were getting out of our explosions and what we were getting out of our hit component, and then estimate that and then figure out how to make Path of Building respect that. So a few things. We are absolutely not counting point blank at all. We do have point blank on the tree. It does affect the explosions and it does affect the hit component. So we could add 30% more DPS for point blank if we could stand next to an enemy. If we could stand directly next to an enemy, we get 30% more damage. We are set to Guardians here too. But I'm assuming you can't always stand there, and I'm trying to be as reasonable as possible. But we do have point blank, and it's not affecting the DPS, but it does affect the DPS. So if you can stand right up something's butt, 30% more damage. So that's pretty cool. The other thing to take into effect is that we're getting roughly 10% more DPS from the explosive arrow hit component buff that's happening, where the damage per fuse is going on the hit is going from 5% per 6%, 5% per fuse to 6% per fuse, which is, there's 20 fuses, so that's an extra 20% more, but it's already in a more multiple. It works out to about 10% more damage. Also not calculated here, so that should be up a little bit higher. I have made some early leveling links. This is what you would do up to level 28, what you do at level 28, and then your end game setups, auras, castle damage takens, etc. Your non-crit links for yourself, then your crit links for yourself, and then the totem links, which don't change. They don't change either way. There's a pretty good argument for inspiration in both setups. What you should know is if you're running inspiration, which you might be, you might not, you may have to run inspiration for mana early to get the mana cost down. If you're running inspiration, you want to run inspiration in the totem as well, because it'll gain the benefit for the buff. If you are not running inspiration, you will not want inspiration in the totem, which is fine. We just change that for something else, probably cruelty. Cruelty is almost certainly it. Empowered level 3 will be the best one. It's the best one for all of them, but we're going to assume that you don't have empower level 3s. All of our gems are level 20, no quality. So no quality, no level 21 gems, no shenanigans happening here. To touch on a few points that are important, the one piece of gear on here that I actually do have crafted is my boots. These are a shaper pair of boots with 31% chance to avoid ailments on it. It is not really important how you get your other 30% chance to avoid ailments. So you can very easily get it on a regular pair of boots that has the crafted mod for 25% chance to avoid, and also the implicit that'll put you over. We're at 70% chance to avoid ailments without the boots, without any, like, we're at 70%. So we do need to get that other 30 to become ailment immune. The best place, easiest place to do that is on boots, probably just an Eldritch implicit and craft, but you could also do it with the shaper mod. Either way works, doesn't matter. Until then, I just don't run Wrath, and I run Purity of Elements instead to be ailment immune. The rest of our ailment immunity comes from Raider there and this wheel here. There is also an option while you're leveling, if you need to, you can come down here and just grab the avoid ailment status and crystal skin there, which is also 30%. So you could do that if you've got a ton of resists and you don't need to be running purity. You can get rid of that and just spend a few extra points and use that and then spec out a bit later. Good temporary solution. As you can see, quite tanky. We are using iron reflexes. We cannot afford to run a good determination, but we also don't really care to have 50,000 evasion rating. I would much rather have 46,000 armor. Just makes us significantly tankier, lets us use molten shell, all that sort of thing. So using iron reflexes, even if we weren't using iron reflexes, we'd already have to be here for the frenzy charge stuff. So for that, it's one travel point to get to this really nice life wheel, and then we're just looking at iron reflexes just being there. So we're taking it. The only other thing worth mentioning is during leveling here, you will see I take Primal Spirit. I actually take that really early. I come straight out here. I take those attack speed nodes. I come here and then I take Primal Spirit. And that is because we have strength and int problems very early in Act 1, and we do not have the gear to fix it. So that helps a lot. Also, that gain 4 mana per enemy hit if you've used a mana flask in the last 10 seconds really helps super early when we don't have any other version of sustain. So we take those points out relatively soon, but you should just leave them in until you can get rid of them. I generally am able to get rid of them in somewhere in Act 2 to Act 4, depending on the run. I've done a few runs of this. You can respec out of them whenever. Not really important when you do it, just that it has to be done at some point. And then the only other important thing is that we level most of the way to level 90 as a precise technique build. Very important that we keep our accuracy rating above our life. Easiest way to do that early is to take this bow mastery for plus 100 accuracy per green socket and try and have, at least 2 green sockets. That's 200 flat accuracy on top of everything else. When you're looking at acts 1 to 3, you're only going to have a few hundred life. Super easy. Also in pretty early in the leveling process there, we take the dexterity becomes 3 accuracy instead of 2 mastery there. That keeps us, those 2 things, that keeps our accuracy well capped and well in front of our life anyway. The other thing is we do pop out here and pick up Onslaught off the tree. We do that so that we can drop Onslaught from our own links. If you find another version of Onslaught, the moment you find another version of Onslaught, you should be looking for that on a quiver when you get to maps is the easiest. You can also unveil it on boots if you get lucky enough for that, because you will not have Death's Rush. Death's Rush is what I was using for Onslaught in all of the test runs. You could also just give it up. You could also just put it on a flask, because those are all your options. You drop that as soon as you get Onslaught via another method. We don't want to keep it. If you make it all the way to the crypt build without having found a way to get Onslaught, it's now too far away and we're too point intensive and we can't afford it. So fix your Onslaught before you get to level 90 and change to crit. That's important. Fix it before then, because the tree doesn't lend itself once it's crit. We are point starved. All right, that is everything to do with the tree. Oh, the one other question I get all the time: why aren't we using elemental equilibrium? This is a hit build. We do not need elemental equilibrium because we already have nearby enemies have fire, cold, and lightning exposure, while you have phasing, which you always have phasing. So we're using Wrath, we're using the chest that adds cold damage, and we have the fire explosion at the end. We do all kinds of damage. It's great. We already have exposure. We do not need elemental equilibrium. There is also a Slayer version of this that I haven't done, that another creator, Tanky, ran a league or 2 ago. That was also quite good. It's very similar. It's a little bit slower to map and a little bit better at bossing, and that's really it. They're both very similar builds. I prefer the Raider one for early quality of life. Basically, I'm able to get suppression capped and ailment immune much easier. Requires a lot more investment in the Slayer version to do that sort of stuff, so it's not my preference. Later on in super min-max gear, more expensive, I think Slayer ends up being better, but for me this is more of a league start run, so I wouldn't be getting hundreds of X worth of gear on it. I'd be using it to finish off my Atlas, do all my bosses, get everything done, farm some currency for a different build. So that's it. That's the whole build. I think it's quite a different take on EA. It's, again, I'm mentioning this again because I don't want people to get upset. This is not like an S+ tier build. This will not be the absolute best league start build you could ever run. This is quite good at everything, but not the best at anything, right? This is an all-rounder that will do everything, but doesn't do anything the very best. So up to you if you want to go with it. That's all I've got for this build, and I will see everybody next time. Goodbye.